Put your eyeballs on the beat with Austin and Jeremy Birmingham on YouTube or 10 TV Plus. Also on Dotting the I's. But put your ears right now on the Bryant Heating and Cooling Systems fan guest hotline, where we go now. And Austin, in the last segment, we were talking about jersey patches. I know for a lot of fans, it's, avert my eyes from this horrible corporate-infested college football. But that seems to be kind of the path we're walking down. Is there a corporate sponsor or a corporate logo? And I guess I might put you in a tough spot here, that you would be okay with seeing on a Buckeyes uniform this fall.
Yeah, I would love to see a Roosters patch right on there.
Good job out of you.
Fit in great, you know? I mean, they're already a primary sponsor of Ohio State athletics. It's a wonderful spot to watch games. I think it would fit in naturally on there. It's going to happen eventually. I don't know if Roosters can get to the level of, the national brands that would be involved in there. So if you're asking me what I'd be okay seeing, I can wrap my mind around it, and it would look kind of like some of these bowl patches. Nobody really complains about seeing those during the playoff or, the mayonnaise bowl or the Pop-Tarts bowl. Like, we've kind of gotten used to those, and those have, pretty prominent brand sponsorships on them. And I know that they're one-off, and it's not the traditional look for every single week, but this is just sort of, the road that you have to go down at this point. And I guess the fact that you've added those in the past for postseason games or for one-offs throughout a regular season, or paying tribute to players from the past, I think has given at least a look at what that might eventually look like. And I'm I don't know where you guys exactly fall on this. I'm a traditionalist, and it's hard to wrap your mind around football jerseys having that, but we're at that point already with the NBA. We've got that with Major League Baseball. NHL is putting logos on the lids. So, it's that's sort of the last frontier that's left. But as we get into house settlement era and revenue sharing, schools are going to continue to look for every way that they can to get a little bit more money. And at least now you can look at that and say, well, it's not just a money grab for the universities or the teams, because it's also going to the players that are actually wearing those uniforms.
Austin, with that, what is something else that you think of that's going to get sold that we wouldn't believe? Like, I know we've got Safe Light Field at the Horseshoe. Are we ever going to have, like, the nationwide Horseshoe? Like, what is something else that you could see that's going to blow people's minds?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the one, Bake. That feels like an inevitability, and you have to walk a fine line, because you're talking about one of the most recognizable brands in college football. I mean, the fact that we already call it the Horseshoe when it's really Ohio Stadium tells you that maybe there's also an opportunity that people could be okay with that. Now, maybe they won't, and I think that there will probably be a lot of vocal outrage the day that some naming rights are attached to that. That happened even just when we got to putting something on the turf and the field there. But if there is available territory for sponsors to be involved, it's going to be used. And you see that with, you're going to see that probably with the football at some point. You're like, oh, how can you do that? They're going to find a way to use every inch that's available to them. It's the way of the world. It has become such a big business. And, we can cry about it and moan and long for the good old days when it was just purely about the sport. Not every game was on TV, but college football didn't get to the level of popularity that it is now without more money coming in and business pursuits being attached to it. So I do still feel gross when I talk about games being inventory and broadcast opportunities, but that's really where we are. And when we're on July 7th. I'm really more excited than I've ever been to get to late August, and then every Saturday after that, where we stop talking about the business of college football and actually get to watch them play it again.
Austin, I think it's made some people feel a little extra gross talking about high school kids having agents, where you had the agent for Felix Ojo over the weekend come out and say he signed a 3-year deal with Texas Tech valued at $5.1 million. I know the Buckeyes and the Longhorns were in on the big man out of Texas as well. There's been some reporting that he kind of strung along the coaching staffs for both the Longhorns and the Buckeyes. Is that something that you're hearing as well?
Yeah, in the way that it worked out, though, there's also been a little bit of pushback that maybe the way that Felix Ojo performed at some of the, camps over the summer, the Rivals camp, I think a month or so ago, wasn't really blowing away the coaching staff. You can take that with a grain of salt. I don't think it's meant as sour grapes, but as that process went along and the dollar amount stayed at the level it was or got even larger with Texas Tech involved, I think Ohio State was like, I'm not sure that what he's doing right now meets that level of demand or, financial constraints for a salary cap figure, especially on this position in the offensive line. I've told you guys, many times before, Ohio State has been reticent to give that kind of money up front for a left tackle, for an offensive lineman, when they're highly unlikely to play as a true freshman. If you need them to play as a true freshman, that's problematic for the way you've been developing the rest of your roster. So when you start talking about seven figures for someone to sit on the bench for a true freshman year, Ohio State gets a little bit wary about that. I think I agree with their approach that they should not be spending that, on quote-unquote rookie deals, freshman deals, a new thing that we're going to have to get used to. We're talking about for college football players, I guess, in this new era. You're just better used spending that money on transfer portal guys. Like, think about what they did with Josh Simmons or now Ethan Onyanwa last year for Ohio State. It's not, you don't want to live in the transfer portal, and Ohio State definitely wants to land high 4- and 5-star offensive linemen, and they're going to pay more for those guys than I think they were wanting to do in the past, but they're not going to skew their salary cap figures. They're not going to go into seven figures for someone who's not going to play right away, when the other option is to evaluate the very best that could be out there in the transfer portal, get them in there in December or January, and get rolling into a spring camp. I think that's the right way, especially if you're balancing that out by continuing to recruit, 3 or lower 4 stars from the Midwest. Look at what's happening with Austin Sarabeld here, in the way that he has turned into it. You got one right. You can take a few chances on those guys, see what pans out, who develops, who's got the mentality for it, who's invested in the long run for their career at Ohio State. And mixing and matching that, I think, is probably the right strategy. It doesn't make it feel any better when you watch Texas Tech, leap off the top rope from out of nowhere and win a recruitment against two powerhouses. But those things are going to happen. And if those numbers are accurate, it's going to be pretty difficult for Texas Tech to build a competitive roster around Felix Ojo down the road. So interested to see how that plays out. But, I continue to believe that Ohio State's got a blueprint in place that is going to work out for them in the long run.
The last couple of years, Austin, Larry Johnson has faced some criticism, fair or not, but he's had a pretty good couple weeks here, landing commitments from Damari Simeon and Cameron Brickell last weekend, then flipping Glenville product Jameer Perez from Florida to Ohio State this weekend. Obviously, some emphasis on the interior of that defensive line. Larry Johnson's 73, and he's still getting it done out on the recruiting trail at a pretty high level. How much longer of Larry Johnson do you think we have, and how much should we maybe be appreciating what he's done for Ohio State? Because it could be gone at any moment.
Yeah, I really thought, Bake, that Larry Johnson would go out on a high note last year, to be honest with you. Only Larry Johnson knows how long he wants to keep doing it. And I watched him operate at those recruiting camps, the one-day camps last month, and he looked re-energized by what happened. It wasn't like that was the final piece of his resume, sending off Jack JT, Tyleik Williams, Ty Hamilton to the NFL, claiming another national championship ring, solidifying his claim as maybe the best defensive line position coach that college football has ever seen. But given, the challenge of reloading and replacing that entire group, that would be like, hey, you know what, I'm good here. I am into my 70s. The recruiting is a grind. Developing is a grind. I'm ready to be done. But he certainly does not seem to be taking that approach at all. And you look at the success that he's had in the last couple of weeks on the recruiting trail, that has been the real question over the last couple of years. How much passion, how much energy does his more old school approach still resonate? And, we can't ignore the fact that we spent the last 6 months talking about the depth of defensive tackle for the 2025 Ohio State Buckeyes, and are they going to be able to get to the level they were a year ago? Did they need to go into the transfer portal? There had been misses both at defensive end, where Ohio State took 2 ends out of the transfer portal, one in the winter window, one in the post-spring camp window. Didn't do that at defensive tackle, which puts a lot of pressure there on Jason Moore and Tywan Malone, Will Smith Jr., Marquez Carter to get up there and, supplement what you're going to get from Edric Houston and Caden McDonald. So, again, I think that's a reflection of maybe some rediscovered energy there, that it's not just about those 15 practices in spring and training camp and building guys throughout the year. And Larry Johnson, I think, has taken that challenge to heart, and the results are starting to show up there on the trail again this summer.
Catch The Beat with Austin and Jeremy Birmingham on YouTube and on 10 TV Plus, wherever else it is you do your podcasting. Austin, thanks so much for the time today, bud. We'll catch up with you next Monday.
Appreciate you guys. See ya.
And he joins us courtesy